mine. Oh, it's you, my dear viewer. Well, it's me, Alien Mugal III, for the Mugal's reviews of my Godzilla retrospective of sorts on the Mr. TDF channel. That's right. I didn't forget about you. Today we're going to be talking about Shingodzilla. That film, as you probably know because you're an intelligent viewer, was released in 2016. However, recently this year, in the grand year of, 2025, almost 10 years later, old Shingodzilla got an orthochromatic or monochrome, black and white release in theaters all over North America, and I had the good pleasure of seeing it a few months ago, about 2-3 months ago. Time is nothing. But Mugal is eternal, and so is Godzilla. So sit back, grab your favorite ale, and sit down and join me as we think really hard about the beauty of Shingodzilla. And my sacred Black Hole Planet 3 helmet made of pure titanium, space titanium with a bit of tinfoil, has been damaged following the last episode of Mugal's reviews. And of course, check out my previous episodes right here if you really like this one. But sit down, because I've had enough of other Godzilla YouTubers. It's time for me, Alien Mugal, to get a little drunk and tell you all about Shingodzilla. Now, of course, Shingodzilla, a solo film. Here's one of my favorite Bandai figures, and here's the Thai release of Shingodzilla right here. So, judging by that, you could probably infer that I really like Shingodzilla, and to that I say, yes, you're right, I do. I really do. It is in my top 10 Godzilla films to this day, even almost a decade later. Now, it's not just the ale talking. I really like it. Why is that? Well, suffice to say, I'm not going to say it because of reasons you might infer or assume with other fans, like, oh, it's because it was made by Hideki, or because it's political or had a social commentary, or because Godzilla's scary. Well, no, it's none of those reasons. Well, they all do come together, form something nice, and there are valid reasons to love the beauty of Shin Godzilla, but I like it for my own reason, and that is this. It's simply an entertaining film. It hits all the high notes I want from a Godzilla film. Good action, solid characters, a beautiful score, and it has something to say while still just being about Godzilla himself, right? Yeah, we could run in circles all day about the political tensions of the film. The commentary has of Japan following 3/11 and its relationship with America and other countries in the modern day. Well, of course, having Godzilla be, some big hyper-evolving creature hell-bent on destroying us if we keep pestering him. Well, yes, but for me, personally, I just like it because it's entertaining. Like I said, it's all the high points I want from a Godzilla film above all. It's just entertaining. It's a beautiful look at. It has a beautiful score and characters I really like. Now, the common consensus on this film is that people think the characters are boring, right? You got Yaguchi being up-and-coming politician. You got Ann Patterson, who's going to be running for U.S. president one day in the future, right? She's kind of a nepo baby. Then you have Yaguchi, whose father was also in politics, but he didn't really get any of that nepotism that Ann Patterson does, right? All that, man, including a big supporting cast of characters I'll just run through right here. Shingodzilla becomes not so much about following one character's journey, although Yaguchi does take center stage for the most part. It's more about the collective, and not a collective in losing your individualism. Instead, Shingodzilla likes to talk about how important it is for people to still have something to say themselves, right? Isn't that what politics is about? Having something to say yourself while still being part of something bigger, and that's where the unity comes into play as all these different players. The politicians, the government officials, representatives, scientists, military, foreign officials coming in to help, scientists from all over, data people, book people, garbage men, guys who put big tubes in big trucks and shove it in a giant lizard's throat. Yeah, we need you people too. That's kind of the message. It's a nice story that ties back to Ishiro Honda's and Shinichi Sakazawa's work in the Showa era about people coming together. For that, I really applaud Shingodzilla. Of course, you see that in -1 as well. Here's -1 Goji right there. Here's a beer. And you see, it's all a staple of the Godzilla franchise. People coming together against all odds. Because, like most things in life, you can't really draw the lines you can't really draw the lines on it just being about politics or social commentary. At the end of the day, people have to come together if you want something good to be done, a difference to be made, a new path for the future. Something you commonly hear in the Ultraman franchise as well. It's just something inherent with all these stories you get in Tokusatsu. That's kind of the beauty I see of Shingodzilla. Like, sure, it is taking inspiration from clear, real-world tragedies, whether it's the 3/11 event or just the recent, or your red tape, cutting the red tape, and people coming together with different countries trying to struggle and live and coexist on a planet that is big enough for everybody, but really make it feel small, right? This is not what politics does, it makes it feel small. When in the bigger picture, I mean, we're all just stuck here together, aren't we? Which takes me to the very poignant end part of the film. I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, just how I do shit on here. But I like how it ends with Yaguchi after talking to Ann Patterson and setting up the future, which is a good future for all countries to work together. We get a small, quick moment of Yaguchi looking off in the distance as Godzilla's there. Frozen, his blood's frozen, coagulated, and he's just hanging out there, right? Of course, you got the weird mutant things, but that's besides the point. The big thing I really like is Yaguchi looking out at Godzilla in the distance, right? Final shot of the film almost. And he's like, but things are far from over. It's just a classic thing to say in Godzilla, right? If you grew up with the Heisei Millennium films, you probably had a lot of exposure to people having some kind of vendetta, some kind of grudge, some kind of just holding against the big G himself. And I just felt like a nice throwback, right? But of course, you know me if you see this channel, I love the Showa era. And this really felt like a good Showa era film in a way. Not just the music and sound effects, but just felt like a nice story. That's something they say that captured a moment in time. Well, really just being about a struggle in the modern day of people trying to exist with this big creature that doesn't really seem to hate us, but he knows that we exist. If we keep pestering him, he's gonna fight back. Or just look at how the film handles, really get a nice scene of Godzilla and JST finally fighting in a modern film. I love to see it. But of course, he doesn't really fight back in that daytime battle of the bridge, but he still makes a statement of how powerless we are against the big G himself, huh? But then, that classic angry Showa Godzilla comes into play once America sends the MOAB bunker busters into his spine. You know, spinal tap. Don't we hate those? And the big G finally starts roaring a bunch and he gets angry, he stomps around like you would want him to. And he starts blasting the hell out of everything. He even takes out the Prime Minister cabinet. Like, there's a lot of stakes here. People do die, whether it's the US, Japan, or anyone else that helped be involved in the final battle. And of course, civilians just trying to get by. Godzilla does shit, and he does shit hard. He makes a statement, he blows shit up. He starts being docile and just kind of moving around, you know, weirdly in the beginning because he's evolving. Then he gets more aggressive, right? There's like, the more I rewatch this film, the more I like the third act better. Like, sure, Godzilla himself may be absent, but you still feel his presence, and you really start to root for these characters as, with a big gaping hole of the Prime Minister cabinet being gone, you get to see how Yaguchi and everybody starts to work together with all these foreign officials to make a difference, and that's the beauty of the third act itself. But to go back a little bit, one thing I really like about how they portray Godzilla in this film, like, sure, his two initial forms may be goofy, but there's that small moment, right? You get that nice homage to 54 destroying the train, and you get that shot of the people on the hill, the shrine, which is just taken straight out of 54 itself. Really beautiful callback that a lot of people don't really talk about, right? Just the actual perspective shots of people on looking of Godzilla in the moment. After the helicopters decide not to fire on Godzilla in his third form because of civilians, we see Godzilla starts overheating, right? And he could just ran off and just, go back to the ocean, which he does. However, I love that he takes the moment to look back on himself. Then he roars at the helicopters anyway. Like, I know people like to criticize this film for not giving Godzilla a lot of emotion, but there is still stuff there that I appreciate. The classic Godzilla just gets angry, like the Showa era. Because, one staple of Godzilla, whether he's a hero or a villain, he's a real bastard to people that really piss him off. That's still here to some degree. And of course that pays off again in a final battle where he starts roaring a bunch more as the buildings fall and he's fighting all the drones and the trucks and the trains. It's really good, right? And of course there's the meme of the trains getting their revenge on Godzilla. A lot of good stuff. He becomes a lot more classic Godzilla in the final battle. And of course, this is like still the only time in a modern Godzilla film. Again, can't believe it's almost been 10 years of this beautiful soundtrack itself, but get to see another military march. I don't know. I mean, I think the Heisei era and Millennium era spoiled us on military march being played as Godzilla fights a slew of militaries, you know, a whole armada, JSDF, or whatever faction it was, depending on the film. Moving to Shingodzilla, we get the rendition heard in, I believe it was 1959's Battle in Outer Space. I have it down here somewhere in my collection, that Blu-ray. I think it was a 2-pack from each man. But that version of the military march plays as Godzilla fights everybody, Japan and all the players in other countries chipping in the final fight. Again, small things like that really takes me back to classic Godzilla. And -1 did do things like that too, of course, but I feel like if Shin, they kind of compromised by not having him move a lot, by having a lot more action around him, which is fine, right? When the inevitable sequel, I heard that we are getting the Shin, I'm sure he's going to have a new design, slightly revamped, he's probably going to fight someone. I mean, come on. There was no taboo against having a monster fight and still having something specialist. Like, I mean, come on. Drink with me, you're a tokusatsu fan, you like good shit, huh? Don't be a snarky critic. Regardless, with Shin Godzilla, there's a real beauty to it that just ages better like a fine wine as time goes on. Over time, I've liked the third act a lot better. I don't think it's really slow anymore. I appreciate the small, nuanced details of people really coming together against all odds, putting aside personal, isms, your own grudges, your own beliefs, and trying to solve a problem by preventing another nuke being dropped in Japan and finding a new solution to stop Godzilla, at least for now. It's very classic Godzilla stuff. And of course, I like the way Godzilla's portrayed even more as time goes on. I like the cast, the third act, the music gets even better. I mean, come on, look at me, I'm dressed as Alien Mugal. They play the Terror Mecha Godzilla theme. Easily 10 out of 10 right there. And of course, the film does have something to say about people, and once again taking a snapshot to real history concerning the events that inspired the film. And all in all, it all comes together, a nice just concoction of beauty and great storytelling, combining CGI with classic tokusatsu framing, at least in the way Godzilla is put into the shots, right? He's still portrayed by somebody with motion capture, which is a really nice detail. And all in all, great soundtrack, cast, themes, fights, cinematography, whatever else you want to say, any film term, go throw on it, The boom guy did a good job, huh? The sub PH2, I'll give everybody some credit. Even the end credits themselves with a bunch of classic themes being played. Hell yeah, good stuff. I'll drink that out alone. Oh no. As you've seen with Mugal's reviews, you follow my series and the other video essays on this channel about Ultraman and Godzilla and Tokusatsu. There's a lot of beauty to be had if we look at these films, and it's really just don't judge them on a book by its cover. Really enjoy what the films are trying to do. There's a lot of beauty to be had, right? There's one thing about the digital age of pop culture, you can get really caught up in the mob mentality, following the trends, trying to follow what other bigger YouTubers saying. Well, to that I say just form your own perspective on something you like. Whether it's a topic like Shin Godzilla that is commonly brought up, -154, Return of Godzilla, go check out that video. Of course, just form your own opinion. Life is a lot prettier, there's a lot more beauty in life when you really take time to be introspective and find something interesting to say about a long-established topic. That's the point of Mugal's reviews in terms of the Godzilla fandom. And if you want to hear more of my thoughts and other stuff, then check out Mr. TDF's appearances on the G-Force Kaiju podcast. Me and my buddies finally met up in person recently to celebrate a certain handsome devil's wedding. Shout out to Nick. And shout out to Nick again for giving me this final words Rodan. Love you, brother. Of course, check out G-Force the Kaiju podcast. Check out my other Mugal's reviews, videos, and Godzilla video essays. Let me know in the comments if you think there is a beauty in Shin Godzilla or why there isn't. I want to know either way. I've been Alien Mugal III. Remember to always drink and watch Tokusatsu because every day is a Tokusatsu day.